Hey folks, we're back live on livecoding.ca. We're doing JavaScript hours today, so just wanted to say hi to everybody, and let's get to it. So what I was thinking for today was we could actually we've been doing katas and stuff, but not that it's boring, but I think it's fun to kind of build something, and I thought what would be fun for today would be not to create the whole thing, but what we could do is try and build out part of the Jest API, like describe, it, all those things, expect. So I thought that would be a lot of fun to do. So I think that's what we're gonna get up to. So let's get to it. I'm gonna just check in something here on the Twitters. We're all good. All right, cool. Let's get to it. Okay, let's switch to coding view, and yeah, so what I've done here so far is just created an empty folder, called it mini jest. Now what I'm thinking of doing here is, well, let's get things set up with some basic stuff first. So let's do an npm init, except I am not typing in there. Just gonna drop the help as well if ever folks want to have a bit of fun and play around with some of the stuff on the screen. And I'm just going to hide my alpaca like I always do. All right, so we're going to do npm init -y, and that just installs with the defaults that I have set up for npm. And so that's just going to create a basic, not a basic, but bare bones package.json file. And from there, we're going to do a git init, so that we can at least have like a good starting. And the other thing I want to do is, I've shown this on other streams, maybe on the dev stream, maybe on my own stream too, but we can do npx. There's a package called git ignore, but by using npx, we can just call it directly instead of installing it. And I'm going to put node. And what this does is it will create a .gitignore file in your repository with what are sensible Node.js defaults. So I'm gonna run that, and if we come over here to the side view, we're gonna see there's a few things. So there's that git ignore now, and that got generated. You can see here, let me close that. This is all getting pulled from that repository. So these are all, like I said, sensible defaults. There's some comments in there that mention things like you might want to uncomment, but for our purposes, I think we're in pretty good. So let's do this. I'm just gonna move Todd for a second. All right, let's put a donut. All right, okay. So I'm gonna close this. Whoops, that's not what I meant to close. Closing browser windows, which is not what I wanted to do. All right. Let's go there. Okay, now we've got everything set up. We can do a touch readme.md. And actually, if you're creating a new file and you're in VS Code, you can just say code, assuming you have the installation path for code in your path. It'll just open a file, in this case readme.md, but it's going to be empty and the file won't exist until you save it. But if you aren't aware of how to set up code from the installation, if you don't have code installed from the path, what you do is if you do Command-Shift-P in VS Code and you type path, where is it? Yeah, I'm using Insiders, but it'll say, if you select this, it'll add this to the path. Yeah, that's weird. I don't know why you didn't get notified, Andrew. Anyways, thanks for coming by. Yeah, so I already have code installed in the path in my shell. I'm using ZSH. So this is going to open up a README, and we'll just say, let's do creating a mini jest for fun. And that's all I'm going to put for now. And then I save that. So now if we come here, it's clear, and I'm going to do, I have some git aliases. So this G is for git. I'm very lazy. And A just means add all the files. So I'm going to do git add, and then I'm going to do git again, CI, which means commit with a message. And I'm just going to say initial commit. And since we're doing this live, let's just push it right away. I'm going to use the GitHub CLI. So GitHub repo create. If you haven't installed the GitHub CLI, just Google GitHub CLI. It's pretty easy to install. If you're on Mac, I believe they still have a brew install, but if you're on other platforms, the documentation is really good. So I'm gonna create the repo, right? It's public, and it's gonna add the origin, and I'm gonna say yes. So this is gonna, I had the repository locally, but now it's available to me as well if I go to my GitHub. So just to show that. And also just wanna kind of point out, like, I was able to do that very quickly. You can do this with other commands, but the GitHub CLI I've found to be like super helpful. So if we go to my GitHub and we go to Nick T Online, I'm not logged in because I'm using, oh, I am logged in. Okay, so if we go to repositories, should be there. So there, we got mini Jest already, and we are working. Okay, so it's created the repository and it's added the remote. But what I need to do is I need to push my initial commit. So let's do a git push. Okay, and this is what I love about Git and stuff. It just tells you explicitly what to do. So I'm gonna literally copy this. And there we go. It's gonna push up all the initial commit. If I refresh this, give it a sec. There we go. So we've got the git ignore, package.json, and the mini Jest. So you can go see that live right now, and feel free to check that out after the stream if you want. I'm gonna just drop it in the chat here. All right, let's get back to VS Code. So I thought what would be fun too is, it just exists obviously already. We're gonna, without looking at the code, we're gonna try and build out some of this API, like I said. So the describe, the it.only, for example, it.skip. I think you can do describe.only and describe.it as well. If not, we're gonna create it anyways. So the first thing I wanna do though is we're gonna do this in a test-driven development kind of way. So I'm gonna do, actually, I'm gonna use yarn. So I'm gonna say, I have a shortcut for yarn too, it's just y. Yarn add, and we'll say jest and d. So this is gonna add jest to our dev dependencies, and we're gonna use jest itself to test the testing framework we're building out, which is kind of like, but it'll be fun, don't worry. Hey, what's up, Will? Nice to see you, man. Yeah, so I know you just popped in there, Will. So what we're doing here is we're just going to build out a bit of the Jest API using Jest to actually test it. So like I was saying, we're doing some test-driven development to actually build it out. Okay, Node is not compatible with this module. Expected version 10.3. Okay, let's do a quick check here. I'm using NVM on my computer, so that's a Node version manager, for those aren't aware. Okay, NVM, actually let's do Node version. 14.4, okay. Let's do this. Let's do a touch.nvmrc. It's gonna create a Node version manager configuration file. And I'm going to echo, actually we're going to do node --version 2 .nvmrc. I think that should work. Did that work? Yeah, it did. Okay. So whoops. We're going to do nvm use, and that should pick up what's found there. Okay. But that still doesn't explain why Jest was complaining. If we go back up here, where was Jest? Jest core 27. The engine node is compatible with this module. Okay, I need to have I need to update a newer version of Node. Okay, that's what's going on. Let's do this then. So let's clear. Let's do nvm install LTS, which means the latest. No, is that how you do it? Oh yeah, I think it's like this. Okay, so this is installing the latest version of stable Node. And yeah, so again, got to read our error messages, I guess. So I've got that now, and what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna update my nvm-rc, which is in the project here, and we're gonna say nvm use. Now when you run nvm use, it grabs what's in this configuration file and sets your project to that version of Node. So there we go. All right, so I'm going to do a, oh, thanks for the follow. Hey, Todd. Oh, thanks for the subscription, Todd. Wow, whoa, cool, cool. There's a fun command, Todd, that I'm gonna start building out other stuff for subscribers, but I created a curling rock. So I'm gonna load it up here. You'll see the command for it. Only subscribers can use it, but if I do, for example, let's do here, curl-left, you're gonna hear it sweep. Sweep. Anyways, it's just a little fun thing. Anyways, thanks so much again for the subscription, Todd. If you're looking for some other stuff to add for subscribers, I think it'll be fun to build out some stuff. So yeah, those pro sound effects, that's my horrible Canadian voice just saying sweep. Anyways, thanks again, Todd. Okay, so I've got, again, I'll just recap. We couldn't install Jest because we needed a minimum Node version of 14.15. I went ahead and installed, because I'm using NVM, I installed the latest stable version of Node, which is 14.7.1 that you see there. I'm going to commit that, so I'm going to do Git Add again. I'm going to say Git Commit, set Node version for project, and we'll put that up. And again, all those things are live up on the repo, which I posted in the chat previously. Yeah, so let's get to it there. So now let's try and install Jest again. So let's do yarn add Jest. Things should go a little smoother this time. So let's yarn add Jest. What do you mean? Oh, okay. I'll explain what happened here. So I installed yarn globally through npm. It's kind of funny that you're installing yarn through npm and you're going to end up using yarn, but that's just how I do it. But because I changed Node versions, it's no longer available in the version I just upgraded to. So I need to do npm install Jest and then global. And then, not Jest. No. Sorry. Whoops. Meant to say yarn. Okay. There we go. Cool. We'll just give that a sec. Yeah, and for those pro sound effects, Andrew, I think it might be fun to make some other sound effects. I was thinking of making Street Fighter sound effects like Hadouken, but I don't know if, even though it's my voice, I wonder if, Capcom, or I forget who created that game, would come after me, because I'm such a big presence on Twitch, air quotes. All right, so we got yarn installed globally now here. Let's go and add Jest again. I'm just going to clear the console just so we can get a bit more clarity here. So we're going to add Jest here now. And let's do another Git Add and Git Commit. Added Jest to the project. Oops. All right, clear that. And now if I just run, well, we can add it to the package.json. So we come here, and for test, we can just say Jest. And we could also add watch. And I have an alias for that, but we can do this. And we should be good. So now if I come back, oh, just got to get rid of that. Okay. So now if I do, for example, yarn, so just Jest, it's going to run Jest. It's going to say no test files found, I believe. Yeah, there's nothing found. That's fine. I can also do yarn test watch, which is what we're going to be working in. Whoops. I've got Rocket, which is a little application for my Mac that does emojis, and it when you do colon, it starts searching for emojis, so that's what that is. So I gotta escape that there and then do it. So now it's gonna run in watch mode. There's no test, but this is kind of where we want to be. Okay. So now the next thing we want to do here is, yeah, let's open up another terminal here. Let me know. I've bumped up the zoom 2 or 3 times. If it's not big enough for folks in the stream, just let me know. Yeah. I'll add the pew pew sound effect, or as Cassidy on the dev stream said yesterday, one of her first jobs, she didn't say pew pew, she said the web, they're working on a web project, and web spelt backwards is B-E-W, so they said pew pew. So yeah, exactly, pew pew. So maybe I'll add a pew pew and a pew pew, and probably add in a lightsaber noise too, the wow, because that's just, you know, canon in Star Wars, but I digress. All right. Cool. Okay, so let's create a source folder. Again, I'm just, a lot of projects I've worked on, that's just how it is. These things are completely arbitrary. You know, if I join a project, I just go with typically the coding conventions they have in the project. I don't want to bike shed too much on it, you know, like just get to work. But I'm going to do it in the source directory, and then I'm going to say code source, and let's create, we'll call it describe.js. That's gonna open that file, and we're also gonna create another file. I'm gonna co-locate the tests, and I'll just do test.js, and that should be good. And in here, I'm gonna do describe, and let's do, okay, no, that's VS Code importing. That's not what I want. This is just jest. So describe a test group, and then we're just gonna have an empty describe here for now, and I'm gonna save that, and you're gonna see the tests are running already. So we're building out, yeah, Hadouken is not copyrighted or trademark. There's a name. Okay, cool. All right, well, so Hadouken some sound bites, Todd. They'll be coming your subscription way at some point. Okay, so another thing I just want to touch on here is how quickly I was able to get up and start testing things. I installed Jest, I put Jest in watch mode, I created a file, and then I created a test file, and I'm already in business. With the watch mode, it's telling me things failed because I don't have any tests, but if I come here and I'm gonna do not a dummy test, that's a bad way to say things, but just like a filler test, just to show that things are all working well. Expect true.toBe true, which looks funny, but we save that. And what's going wrong? Oh, maybe that's not to be true. What is it? .toBe. Now this is obviously a silly test, but it's just to show you that we created a file we're going to be building out, added a test file, and Jest picked it up right away, and we're in business to do some test-driven development. I don't always do test-driven development. I think test-driven development is really good when you know exactly what you're doing, or like have a pretty good idea. But when you're just exploring things, it doesn't really make sense to me, because you know, you don't know what your API is going to look like, or what you're building. I mean, you know what you're building out to some degree, but you know, there's unknowns, or you're just trying to get something working. So a lot of times when I'm building out something, I will do the tests after, or kind of maybe as I go along, once I've kind of certain about some things. So it's not a hard fast rule that you need to do TDD, and I think I've seen other folks do a shift, not necessarily away from it, but it's not like always has to be TDD. Okay, so let's get back to it. So we have this describe.js file. Now, as we can see in the actual Jest API, there's this describe function. It takes a string, which is a description, and then there's a callback. And that's all a describe does. So what we're going to do here in the describe is we're going to say export, and we're going to say it should be supporting ES modules now with the version of Node I'm on, I think, but if not, I'll use Common.js. But I'm saying that because I'm not using any bundlers or anything. I'm just trying to keep this like super easy. Yeah, yeah. You had to bring that up, eh, Andrew? Yeah. Anyways, that was interesting to figure out, and thanks for pinging Jake Archibald about that. Okay, so we're gonna export a function called describe, not capital, and our describe is gonna take a description and a callback like we saw in this file. which is where we're writing the actual test. Okay, so that's good. Looks like it's able to export it, which is good as well. And in here for now, we're just going to do console.log. I know Jest has fancier, like, really nice color highlighting and stuff, but that's not so much the point of what we're doing here. So I'm going to say console log the description and then call the callback. We could use optional chaining, so only call it if it exists. But I think for now, we're not going to focus so much on the error handling, but if there's no callback, it would break in Jest. Like even in Jest, when you run it, it's going to complain. But we could look at that after. But my main goal right now is let's see what we can get working here. So, all right, so I'm exporting this function describe. I'm going to come back into the test file and let's do import and from, I'm pretty sure I can use the ES modules with this version of Node from describe. Yeah, that's right. And I think I need to explicitly say, oh, I didn't save my describe yet. I usually have auto saving enabled. I'm not sure why it's not there, but let's just see if it pops up again. Okay, there we go. Now I'm going to import describe. Now there's no errors here, but we have a problem right away. We're writing an API that's using the same API as Jest. So what you can do is you can use as, and you can say mini. I'm going to call it mini describe because we're building out Jest, a mini Jest. And then in here, what I can do is, let's just do mini describe, and then let's say yo, and then I'm just going to have an empty callback. We're going to run this, and did it fail to run? Yes, it failed to run because there's no... Okay, there's a couple things. Okay, maybe I can't use the ES modules yet. Maybe it's in no... Yeah, I think it's under an experimental flag. Okay, it's not a big deal. I'm going to change this to const, and I'm going to require from describe. This is common JS as mini describe import. Am I doing this wrong? Oh, I think it did it in the wrong order, maybe. Let's see here. Hey, how's it going, Rahit Gala? Yeah, so what we're building here today is we're building out a part of the Jest API. Is that right? No. What am I doing wrong here? Describe should be... Oh, no. Okay. That's me. It should be like this. Mini describe. That should be good. Yeah. Okay, so now I'm going to save this. Okay. Now what's it complaining about? Okay. Yeah, we can't use ES modules yet, so I'm going to just call this like that. And then module.exports equals... Yeah, we'll do this. I'm not going to do a default export, so I'll just say describe. And that should be good. Now if we save that, it should run. Okay. So just to clarify, yeah, exactly. Thanks, Andrew. So I'm just using common.js for now. Again, this is not the point of what we're doing here. The point is we're building out some of the Jest API. I'm pretty sure it's in Node 15 where you can use ES modules without any kind of configuration or experimental flags. But regardless, so we have this describe test here. We're calling it mini describe, as I mentioned, so we don't override what the Jest one is doing. Now, if we look at it, our mini describe is running. It's saying yo, and it's calling something. But what we need to do is we need to ensure a couple things here. So we want to say mini describe yo, and what we're going to do here is going to put callback. I'll explain what's going on here in a sec, and we're going to say const callback equals jest.function. So jest.function allows you to do a few things. It can just be a function that you run just because you need to pass in something, but you can also do checks on it. So we can do here, for example, expect callback, whoops, to have been called times one. If I save that, the test passed. So just to show that, I'm gonna do this instead. If we get rid of this and I run it, it's gonna fail now because, okay, one, the callback's not there, but if I put in another one, for example, and I run this, the test is gonna fail because it says, oh, the callback wasn't called. So that's just to show that the function is actually getting called, and there's some great properties on it to check that it was called. So already a part of our API is working. So we're saying describe, and when I do a describe, I want to make sure that the callback is called. Now the other part we have here is yo, the test message, so our description. So I'm gonna change this to description. And let's go here and I'll do const description. And I'm gonna say best test description ever because it's just fun doing stuff like that. Okay, tests are still passing. And again, once you know what you're doing, like building it out with the test running, it's a great way to do this. And if you're doing UI stuff directly, you know, you could be using React testing library or whatever framework you're using. If you're using Angular, Vue, you know, it's just kind of a cool way to see things as you're building it out now. Okay, so we have that. Now, the next thing I want to check here is I want to ensure that the description is getting console.log. So there's a couple things we can do here. We can say before each, and in here, I'm going to say window.console equals jest.function. And actually, I'm not going to use window because we're not in a browser. In in Node.js, there is global, which is kind of like what the window is when you're in Node land, but there's also global this now, which is universal for both. And I know the Node version we have has that, so I'm going to say global.console, global this.console is equal to a jest function. So now what I can do down here is I'm going to say expect global this.console to have been called one time. Okay. Oh yeah, okay, I did it wrong, sorry. It's console.log. So let's do this. Okay, and if I come back here, console.log. Now if I run that, my test is passing. So already we've got some even better things going on here. So not only we've been able to validate that the describe callback is being called, we're also able to validate that the console.log, which has been called at least once. The console.log is something internal to the describe we're writing out here. So typically you don't want to test internals, but in this case, I think it's kind of valid that we want to ensure that console.log is taken care of because it's something outside of code we've written. It's in the code we wrote, but what I mean is like we did not write console.log. It comes native in Node.js in the browser. So now the other thing I want to check is, okay, that's great. It's been called one time, but I want to ensure that global this.console.log to have been called with as well. And I want to say description. And not the callback too, that's just tab 9 kicking in there. So saying when I run mini describe, which for those, I see there's a few more people that jumped in. We're calling it mini describe because Jest already has a describe function. So ours is called describe as well because we would want somebody to use it later on once we've got it working. But for the case of just writing the test in here, I'm aliasing it to mini describe, and you can do it with this syntax, which has been available since ES6 or ECMAScript 2015. All right, so we're good there. All right, nice. So now I'm gonna say, I wanna test that console log has been called. We've got that. And I also wanna expect that it's been called with that description. So if I run that, it's passing. Now I can validate this because if I just change this to yo, the test is gonna fail. You're going to see here, it expected yo because that's what I'm doing in my tests here, but actually what it did output is best test description ever. And that is what I did pass in. So I'm feeling pretty good about this test right now. I can guarantee that our describe is behaving how the Jest describe behaves right now. So I'm going to save that. test's gonna rerun. We are Gucci. Okay, so what I'm gonna do here now is I'm gonna do a git add. I'm gonna say git CI, which is my git alias to commit it, created the describe function. And I'm gonna push that. And again, all this stuff is live. If we come back here, I'm just gonna drop it off for you. If you are following along, or even if you aren't, you know, going right in the code right now, I'm updating things right here at mini Jest. Okay, and let's get back to it. Let's go back to coding view. All right, so I feel pretty good about that. Now, and the powerful thing about this too, about just saying passing a callback that's a Jest function, is I really don't care what the callback is doing. I just need to know that it was called. You know, later on, you know, in that callback, if there's errors, you know, we can deal with maybe managing errors in our mini test framework later on, but I think for now we're okay. Now, I'm not positive, but I know you can do this with it or test, which is an alias. You can say like it.only or it.skip, and I'm pretty sure you can do that with describe, so I just want to double check that. Okay, yeah, so it does support it. Okay, so this is interesting. So we've got a function called describe. So how are we going to add a .skip to it? So what we can do here is, and this is where knowing how the language works helps. Everything in JavaScript is an object. So I have this function describe here, but describe can have properties on itself. So I don't know if we need to prototype it. We could, but I guess we could prototype it. But for now, let's just keep it simple. Let's do describe.skip. And describe.skip is a function as well. You can use arrow functions here too if you want to, but I tend to go with function whenever it's, you know, unless it's like a callback, like in a map or something, it's just more terse. But, and again, these are just preferences. There are differences, but for the most part, I typically use function. All right. Yeah, so yeah, it's a good question, Andrew. So by doing it on the prototype, it gets shared between it. It's if you did, I don't think putting it on the prototype will have any benefit, honestly, because describe is not a constructor. Like if we go pre-ES classes, ECMAScript classes, you would have a constructor. So you would do something like this. You would say function, you know, car, for example. And then what you would do is you would say new car, and that would create a new instance of car. And then in that car, if you did like car.prototype, I don't know, drive, and it's a function, console.log drive. Okay, so what happens here is every time you create an instance of car, so if I said new car twice, so like this, what happens is when you're using prototype, both of those car instances are sharing this prototype function. If I were to make it a property, each one would get a new property called drive with a new function. So it's not the same thing. So when you use prototype, you are saving memory, because like unlike other languages, like in C#, if you create a new instance, all those instance methods get created for that particular instance. But if you created another one, again, yeah, same thing. But with JavaScript, when it's on the prototype, it's really like, okay, these are both different instances, but they share this function called drive, which is on the prototype. So it's really only one copy of drive. That's the best way I could explain it. And then this is where like the this comes in place, you know, where folks talk about like, well, it's not the right this and stuff. The this is like, think of it as the context of, so when drive gets called, this in the context of drive is, for example, the first car, or it could be the second car. And that's what's kind of neat about using the prototype. But in our case, because we're not creating a class, it's really just something that's a part of the describe, because we only ever have one describe. Like, we export it, but it's always the same describe. It's something like, I don't know how much they really talk about prototype these days in terms of JavaScript. It's something I think that's important to understand. When you do create an ES class, things, as far as I know, it is syntactic sugar, but you still get stuff put on the prototype. There are cases where it won't. Like, if you use an arrow function, then that literally becomes a function of that particular instance in any other instance. So it's something just to be aware of, that's all. So in our case here, describe.skip, and then it's the same thing as up here. Okay, and this is gonna be fun, and I'm actually having fun building this out. So when we do skip, it literally is not supposed to call it. So we're just gonna, we could say return, and it's just gonna return undefined. We literally want to do nothing, and this looks silly in terms of a function, I know, but that is the purpose of skip. We want to skip something. So let's go back to our test here, and if I come back up here, let's add skip, and let's do mini skip. Okay, and actually I'm gonna update this first. Let's say it describe. Oh yeah, I didn't change these here. We're just gonna call this describe because we're testing out the describe, and it should run describe. Let's do this with, let's come back here. I now have this booked for an hour, but honestly, I think I'm gonna go for like an hour and a half today. This is, I think there's a lot of valuable stuff in here. So I should run describes, callback, and log a description. Okay, and that looks good. So I'm just updating that there. Let me undo this for a sec. And let's do this. I'm gonna just open the side here for a sec. I'm gonna do a, yeah, no worries, Todd. Thanks so much for popping by, and thanks again for the subscription. All right, okay, I'm just gonna do a Git Reset soft head 1, and I have the changes I made there, and then I'm just gonna put what I just added in the describe test here. It was just updating the things, the description. So I'm gonna put that back. And what did I do here? Okay, yeah, you know what? I'm going to, let's do this. Yeah, let's just do that. Okay, let's do Git Commit, create the describe function. I'm gonna do a Git push force. It's a Git push force with lease, but this is an alias I have. Okay, and then we can get back to what we were doing. So if we come back here, I'm just gonna undo the skip mini test, and we have the describe.skip. Oh, and you know what? I actually don't need to import the skip because it's on mini describe. All right, so let's do this. Actually, you know what? It should skip the describe. We're gonna have callback. All right, and I'm gonna do the same thing again. Let's put both of these. And we're gonna do mini describe again. Oh yeah, I'm right now I'm on, this one is Shades of Purple right now. It's from Amado Wace. He works at Rapid API now, I think. I'm a big fan of Sarah Drasner's Night Owl, also Wes Boss's Cobalt 2. I just happened to try this one out again, and I'm just kind of stuck on it right now. So I'm enjoying it. They're all great themes, and honestly, so much work goes into building themes. It's like, you just got to give hats off to anybody that does it, seriously. Like, even if you don't like the theme, you should just appreciate the fact that they took the time to do it. Anyways, all right, so we're gonna do mini describe.skip. Okay, now the first test is still gonna pass. This one should pass. I'm just gonna bring this up a bit here. I'm gonna close the sidebar, and I'm gonna stretch this one out over for now. Okay, so 2 tests are passing, but this one is just, it's saying it's passing because I don't have any expecs running here. So this is where it gets fun too. So we're gonna say expect callback. I'm gonna go with this one I'm gonna say dot not to have been called. So just to reiterate, when we do describe.skip, we don't want to change like what our test was. So we still leave the description and a callback, but we literally don't want the test to run. So we're ensuring here for the minis to describe.skip that the callback doesn't get called. So if I save this, should pass. Now we can validate this. So like, if I just say here callback, the test's gonna fail now. So we're like, oh no, I made a mistake here. So let's go back to return. All right, and that's perfect. Okay, now, so far that's good. So I think we're good for the skip. I could also add, okay, so the other thing is I should add that it should still output the description. So let's do that. So it's skipping the test, but it's letting you know this test was skipped. Okay, so I'm gonna add that to the test too. All right, perfect. I don't have pretty or anything set up yet. I could have sworn I had oh yeah, sorry, I gotta get rid of this. We just want to expect the console log to have been called one time, and forgot this part too. And this is where you start to see the power of tests. Oh wait, I do have that already. Global mini describe. Okay, I messed up something. Sorry, hold on a sec. Okay, not to have been called. Yeah, that's right. And I just need to copy these two. Let's come back down here. But like I was saying, this is where you start to see the power of the test. Like if I start messing around and refactoring things, I'm gonna feel really good if these are still passing. Console logs have been called one times. Not to have been called. Just dot function should skip the describe. Expect the number of calls one. Okay, so it's saying oh yeah. Okay. So okay. It sounds funny. I just said this makes you feel more confident, and I didn't even realize. I am breaking my test right now because I actually am not calling the console.log. So this is great. So if I come back here, like I actually still need to do the console log. All right, so come here. Now if I save it, the test is gonna pass. So like already my test, like I'm like, why is it not working? And it's like, sometimes you stare at the test for a while and it's like, oh yeah, the test is right. It's actually not calling console.log. So already that's like pretty awesome. Okay, so I'm gonna commit that. And let's do Git Add and added, let's see, created the describe.skip function. Let's push that. Okay. Perfect. And what just popped on my thing? Oh, yeah. Also, side note, I am babysitting a hamster and it's going well. I don't know if you can see it down there or not, but there's a big box behind me. There's a hamster in there right now. It's his playpen. His name is Bungie. He's having good times. So anyways, cool. All right, so I feel really good about this. Now, the next one, yeah. My wife's paranoid about the hamster dying because my daughter's friends' family are driving across Canada for like 5 weeks. So we have the hamster for 5 weeks. So we are aiming for 0 hamster fatalities. So, all right. So there's the describe.skip that we just did, but there's also, if we go into Jest here again, yes, that is the big fear. Okay, there's a describe.skip, but there's also a describe.only. Now, if I run this, the tests are still passing. Now, we only have one describe in here right now, so this seems kind of silly to do, but it makes it interesting to see how do we... This one I'm not so sure about how to do, because it's almost like I think we might skip this one for now because I think it's a little more complex. I'm just saying it out loud. Maybe folks will be like, no, it's not as difficult as you think, but because it's describe.only, I think we need to actually parse the file and detect which ones are dot only. Because the thing is, like, say we had the describe dot only, but we had a describe before it, that other describe is going to run regardless. So, you know, like I would thinking of it like a naive approach. If I find a dot only, you know, I could have a counter and stuff, but I don't think that would work because like I mentioned, if the describes run before the describe dot only, they're still gonna run. So I don't know what folks in the chat think, but I think it would really be like before the test runs, parse the test file, grab the AST, and find only the dot onlys and run only those. That's what I'm thinking. I'm not trying to overcomplicate things, but I'm trying to think of another way of how you would approach this. The dot skip's easy because you just let it run and we just say don't run it. Trying to think of other ways to do this. Describe only, yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to think of how this will work. I'm almost certain, like I haven't looked at the Jest source code, but I feel like that's something you would have to do. So I think for now, just for the sake of time and stuff, but also I kind of want to think on it. Maybe folks too can think about it too. I'm pretty sure that, I'm almost certain that the dot only, we need to parse the file to detect if there's at least, to me that makes sense. I can't think of any other way that, like, I guess I'm trying to think. Let's see, because if we do describe dot, wonder if we made it a property, and then in the property, like, so like with a getter and a setter, because if we did a describe dot only and it was a property, then in that get, because when the code will run, the dot get could say add a counter. Hey, what's up, Carmen? Yeah, I think that could potentially work. So this is what I'm thinking. So if I come back to the describe, so I'll just lower the bottom part for a sec here. So if we did, for example, describe dot yeah, dot only as a, would that work? I almost never use get and set, so I'm gonna Google it real quick. Yeah, all right, I just want to make sure I got the syntax right. Okay, yeah, it is just that. Okay, yeah. So get, and then latest. I wonder if that would work. Okay, let's see here. So function, let's see how we do this. We could say describe, let's say const enhance describe. Not sure if this is gonna work, but enhance describe, and I'm gonna spread. I can't really spread describe itself. Yeah, no, we could, I guess. Describe, and would it still be the function? I'm not sure. And then we could maybe do like this, get, and then what is the syntax again? Yeah, only, like that. And then this, we could say only count plus plus. Now this isn't a module, so that counter would stay within here. And every time you do the get, it should be okay like this. Only count equals 0. I'm using let because I do need to increment it. Hey, yeah, hey, good to see you, Carmen. What's gonna say? Okay, so my thinking here is if we use a getter, then when we write the test, so like when this code actually runs, the getter is gonna run to say dot only. We increment the count, and then what I'm thinking is if only count greater than 0, return. For the skip, I don't really care because it's gonna skip it, but we could still do the same thing because we don't even want it to show up, I guess. This is kind of my thinking. So now again, because we're testing, I'm doing this and the test for my other stuff is still passing, so I still know like we're okay. Let's come back down here. So I think the getter might work, and then here I would say return only, and then that should be okay. And then if I'd come here, only, it takes a callback and a description like the other ones. Actually, and this is repetitive here, but I think it's okay for now. Actually, let's copy the whole thing. All right. Okay, and let's paste this here. Let's change this to only. Just being a little lazy. It probably would have been faster just to type it, but okay. So the only is really acting like the describe itself, but in the case of describe, we need to skip. I could pull these things out. I'm okay with the repetitiveness for now. Let me take a sip of coffee here. Okay, so if I open up the tests are still passing. So I'm gonna come to the describe and let's do this. Let's do it should it should only run one describe. Okay, so in here, I'm gonna come here and let's do what we had here. I'll explain what's going on in a sec. All right, I'm gonna keep the same description, but I'm gonna do this: mini describe, mini describe, mini describe dot skip. Now, actually, this might not work, come to think of it, because I'm calling the skip last. So, well, let's just validate that, but I'm pretty sure this isn't going to work. So we want to expect callback to not have been called. Oh, wait, now let's do this. Let's do 3 callbacks. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Description can be the same, that's fine. So we'll do callback 1, 2, 3, and this shouldn't be skip, it should be only. And let's see here now. I'm gonna say not to have been called. Where is that? Not. Okay. So this is what we want to check, and I'll get rid of all this for now. 1, 2, 3, and I'll say 1, 2, 3, and we do want this one to have been called once. Now, I think this is gonna fail for the first 2. Okay, mini describe only is not a function. Okay, okay, that's me, so return. Okay, yeah. Dot get only. Okay, yeah, no, I don't think I can call it that. Let's do only. I'm giving it a bad name for now. Don't judge me. Okay, and then there. Okay, so should only run once. Get only. Oh, yeah, I think it only can be prop. Yeah, let me check that. I don't think the property return can be a function, which makes sense, I think. Get latest. Yeah, no, that won't work. Okay, so I don't think this is gonna work. So what I'm gonna do is, I think, like I was mentioning, I know you jumped in a little later, Carmen, so just recap what we're trying to do. So when you run Jest, you can run a describe, which just means like run a group of tests. So if we come back to over here, I'm gonna skip this test for now. Now this is not my code I'm writing. This is it's the test code from Jest, but what I mean is if I run this, the tests are passing. But you could also do describe.skip, which we have tested, but it'll do something like this. And you can also do an only. Now, the problem is, let's do that one again. The thing is, if you do describe.only, the only way to know if there's like one or more of these .onlys in the code, I think, is you have to actually parse the file before you run the tests. I don't think there's any other way to know, offhand at least. So yeah, so that's what I'm thinking. Okay, let's see here. So I think it was a fun little exercise, but I don't think that's gonna work. So I'm gonna reset that and clear all that. Okay, let's run this again. No tests. Okay, yeah, sure. Run watch again. Let's run all the tests. Okay. So I think for now we'll leave the .only. I'll just say do implement describe.only, possibly via parsing test file AST. So AST is abstract syntax tree. If you're not aware of what that is, it's kind of like your code. It's like all the pieces of the code, and then you can transform it. This is how code mods work. Like if you're using like Babel has like code mods, or Kenzie Dodds wrote some code mods. Hey Nick, how's it going? But there's a great tool called ASTExplorer.net, and this can, except I don't know how to spell, it's ASTExplorer.net, and I just used them. Yeah. So I know you just jumped on here, Nick. So we're just implementing part of the Jest API, and I'm on the .only of a describe. And we did .skip and we did describe, and those work fine. The tests are passing here. The problem is with .only, we don't want to run any of the other describes. And I think the only way, because I haven't looked at the Jest code, I'm trying not to look at the Jest code right now, but I'm pretty sure to figure out which test to run like via .only, I think we need to parse the test file first, and then find all the .onlys, and then at that point we would run only those tests. That's what I'm thinking. So I'm putting that on ice for now. I put it to do. I'm gonna drop the AST Explorer for folks who are interested. Nick, who just joined, has been working with him too, so drop your Twitter or something if you want, Nick. Folks can give you a follow, and who knows, maybe they'll poke and prod you about ASTs. But just to show briefly what this is, I'm gonna zoom in. So you can see here, this is a test file over here, and this is what it kind of dissects it as. This is, we can see it in JSON format. Is that what that's in right now? Here's JSON, and it's literally like, okay, from 0 to start, this is how many characters it is, I believe. It tells you what the type is, like a variable declaration, so like tips here and stuff. So what I'm thinking is, if we come here, if I come back to my tests here, let's come back. So if I were to paste in my thing here, you're gonna see it's figuring out what all the code is, and yeah, no, I am doing before each. Yeah. What? I don't know, why is Streamlabs telling you you're sending super long messages? It's funny, Nick, because my friend Kirk, this happens to him too. He gets moderated by the Streamlabs bot, and I have no idea why. Maybe it's a setting I need to tweak. Anyways, you're not doing anything bad. That's just me having to check things. So the thing here with the AST Explorer is we could do, like, for example, I'm going to get rid of everything in the callback for now, just because it's just noise for what I'm trying to explain here. So if we had this, and then this, and then this, and then, you know, there was one .only, we would really want to detect, you know, like if we parse the AST, okay, is there, you know, is there any .only, describe.onlys in here? If there are, we need to take note of them to somehow be able to call them later. Because if we just run the code directly without parsing via the ASTs, unless there's something like really obvious I'm missing, there's no way to prevent the other tests from running. I mean, I guess, I mean, it would be more naive, but you could queue up all the describes maybe, and don't run them until you're certain that there's not at least one dot only. But I don't know. I feel like it would just make more sense doing it this way, but I'm honestly not sure what the solution is. Just doing a time check. It's 11:20. I normally do this for an hour, but like I was saying before, I'm gonna do like an hour and a half today, and I think I might change the JavaScript stream to like an hour and a half, because I think this stuff is fun and hopefully helpful. Okay, so we've got the describes working. Like I said, we're gonna skip the dot only for now. So, whoops. I'm gonna say added to do for describe dot only implementation. And I'm gonna push that. And I know some folks have joined, so I'm gonna drop. This is where I'm pushing all the code. It's public. It's MIT. I mean, no secrets, and it's definitely not trying to make cash off this. This is just to learn. So let's go back here. And so now I think we've got the describe working, you know, with the skip. I think that's not too bad. Let's look at running its. So its are what you would run in the describe. So if we come back to here, I'm gonna say code source it.js. It's gonna open up the file, and I'm using node 14.14.7, I think 14.15.7 or whatever the latest that's stable. So it's still ES modules are experimental, so I'm just using common.js for now. Again, this isn't, you know, getting it to work with ES modules is not the part of this exercise really. So we'll do module.exports, and I don't really like default exports, so I just typically do a export like that. So we're gonna do function it, and it takes a description, because if we come back to our test file here, like we look at the Jest API. yeah. No, I should probably switch to the, if I go to node 15, I don't have to have any flags or anything. And I didn't want to add a build step to this really, like, because I know you could do like, I could use Babel, what is it? Babel node. Could use that, but I'm just not bothering right now. Just trying to keep this simple. So as you can see here, so an it will take a description and a callback, pretty much like the describe. So we're gonna have the same thing here again. And callback. Just mentioning it, I'm not doing any error handling right now, so if no callback is passed in, it's just gonna throw an error. We could build that out later to say, you know, this is callback is required. And actually, you can do this with default values. You can say function. You can say required, for example. Which is a function that we can just make like this, and we could just say throw new error, and then whatever I pass in, I could just pass a message, like some message, and then throw new error like that, a message like this. I've done this before in the past on some projects. It's kind of handy. Anyways, like I said, it's not really in the scope of what we're doing here right now. These are kind of more like get it working, then make it better, and then make it fast. Okay. So in the it, we're going to keep it pretty much the same. So console.log, and we're going to say description. I'll probably set up this project with prettier, but for now it's not. So, you know, if I don't put a semicolon, it doesn't add it. It's prettifying it to some degree, I think. And then we want to do the callback. And that's really all we want the it to do. Now, the interesting thing about it, and we might not get it today, is we want to make sure that it's called within a describe. I'm not positive, but I don't think you can call an it outside of the describe. Or actually, you might be able to. What am I saying? Let's test it. I almost always have describe, so I can't even remember. Yeah, actually, I think you can just run it without. So expect true dot toBe true. Of course, there is no expect. I can't spell. Okay, yeah, no. So you can run it out there. So we don't need to do a check that it's within describe. So that's my bad. So this looks really like the describe as well. It is repetition in that sense, but you know, is it the right abstraction to make some common function that both of them call? Maybe, but for now, I don't think it's a big deal. So these tests are literally going to be pretty much the same as the describe, I'm pretty sure. So let's clear this and let's do code source it.test.js. And let's press enter. Gonna paste this in, and we're gonna do, let's change this using the refactoring tools of VS Code, which for those who don't know, VS Code is written in TypeScript, and that's how you get all these capabilities. I only mention that because it kind of cracks me up sometimes when folks say they don't like TypeScript and they're completely unaware that VS Code is completely powered by TypeScript and all the goodness they get out of it is because of TypeScript. So this little funny side note. So I'm going to call this mini it. And then I'm going to, instead of importing from describe, I'm going to do there. And I'm going to change this to it. And let's see here. We're going to change this to it because we're testing it's the it test suite here. Should run it. Okay. I'm just going to change all of those to it. I don't mean this one, but if I run this. Okay, so we got some failures. That's me probably doing something silly somewhere in here. Let's see here. Just failed to parse this file. Oh, I don't think I finished my it file. Maybe function it callback module.exports it. That seems okay. It's my it.test.js maybe. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Whoops. Don't know how that got changed. Let's run that again. Okay. Oh, weird. I think I accidentally did some other refactoring by accident. Let's run that. Okay. So this is Git. Should skip the it. Okay, yeah. So this is probably just copy paste error. I need, oh no, not copy paste error. I need to add the skip. Again, there's some code duplication here, and this should be it. No, I'm in the describe. Yeah, here. Okay, and this should just be it. All right, still failing, but that's okay. That's why we have tests. Copect. Okay, I clearly did a replace by accident somewhere in the test that did something silly. Describe before code. Let's find copect. Okay, yeah, not sure how that happened. Okay, nice. So we got all the tests passing here, and so now we have the it. We have the describe working. So let's do this. Git add. Created the it and it.skip functions. Gonna push that up. Again, the repo is available for those who want to take a peek at it after. It should be up to date. If I come back here, if I refresh this, of course I'm refreshing the wrong page, but come back here, we should see the new code. Oh, it's committed. I did not push it. That would help. So let's do this. Not push. All right, so if we come back here, refresh. Okay, so we got all the code here. So this is all available to you. So we got the it.js, it.test. It's all there. So feel free to go check that out if you want to. All right, so we got describe, we've got it. So I think the next thing would be expect. Now, expect could blow up to in a ton of things, but let's start off simple. So let's do. We're gonna say code source expect.js. And I'm also going to do code source expect.test.js. Let's save this. Okay. Yeah, this is saying this is failing because we don't have anything in here yet. So let's just do expect test suite. Could give a better name than just expect, but okay, that should pass. No, fails. Oh yeah, must contain at least one test. Sure. Excuse me. Yeah. So for expect, let's go take a peek at our describe test, for example. Now there's a lot of matchers with expect. So let's start off with, I don't know. We could try with just expect something to be true. So let's see, how would we do that? So we want to have expect something dot to be true. So we want to call the function expect, and then we want to check if it's true or false to be actually Boolean. Or actually, it's not even Boolean, to be something. Expect something to be something. We'll call it 2. Throwing out the horrible names here. Okay. All right, so let's just start off with like how this could be done. Not expected value. We'll call this actual value. And then in there, that will call that. And then we want to call dot to be. So trying to think here. Ooh, let's see. Actual value to be. Interesting. I'm trying to think of the best way to do this. Because before, oh yeah, it would help if I gave the name. So expect. What we were doing in the previous ones, we were doing something like expect dot to be, and then equals function. And then, you know, we could say expected value. But we want that to be, oh yeah, you're right. Thanks, Andrew. I'm in the test file. It should be in here. All right. Let's save that. It's going to complain about that other test file. That's fine for now. All right. So let's create our test first, because we know what the API is like. So we can do TDD here. Test, expect. And we don't need this. Whoops. Okay, let's do this. We don't need that. Jest already knows this exists. And we're gonna say what we really want to test is we want to say, I'm gonna call it mini expect again, true dot to be true. And then this is kind of what we're looking to do. So yeah, I'm trying to think about how we do this. If we come back in here. Okay, well, let's just set this up already. Module.exports equals expect. And let's come back here. And we'll do const expect. And again, because Jest already has expect in its library, we're just gonna alias this to mini expect equals. We're using comment.js again, and we'll pull it from expect. Yeah, no, we're gonna do some returns and stuff for sure. Okay, so mini expect. Okay. All right, so that test is failing. Cannot read property to be able undefined. That's fine. Okay, so expect, and then in here we're gonna say it true should evaluate to true. Should be true. Okay, now let's come to the expect here. So this is, yeah, this is what I'm wondering here. I think what I was doing, yeah, I think what we could do is, if it is true, we just console log success. Like here, I'm not sure if we need to return a value here, but we would want to do, actually, okay, I know what we would do. Expect, we would want to return, and then let's see here. We want to pass that value to the next one, so it should be, let's see how we do this. Yeah, you could return some functions. Trying to think of this. Oh yeah, that's what we could do. Yeah. I don't think we need this. So what we could do is, all right, return. Like you said, we're gonna return an object. So we would say, so like toBe is a function, and actually since we're in ES land, we could say here, this is the expected value. And then we would say return, for example, or not return, but we do if expected value equals actual value. Now we have access to actual value because of the closure. And here we could say console.log. We'll just do check mark. And then else we'll do console.error. We'll say X sharp. And then let's make this a we'll say expected, and then we'll do expected value to equal actual. Actually, it should be expected value here. Expected value, actual value. Okay, let's run this. Okay, let's see what happened here. Okay, just gonna talk it through again here. So we're returning a function called expect. Expect takes a value. Okay, in this case, I mean, it could be many things, because like there's things like, you know, like expect to throw error. So actual value could be a function. Maybe actual value isn't the best name, but for now, let's just keep that. So we're writing a test for to be true, and okay, I see what's going on. It should be true. It would help if I actually did this, and let's move that. Okay, I'm gonna save this. This is gonna run. Okay, you see it passed. Now, okay, this is not, the test isn't passing because we're not validating it yet. But just to show you in terms of what our API is doing, okay, you see the first one passed, and then the second one expected true to equal false. All right, so we're already in some good shape here. So let's take a peek here. Expected true to be false, yeah, that's good. So we could do something like, we come back to the describe test. Could do this again, and let's pull this over, and let's put the describe in here. Now we're gonna have the console log, but we're also gonna do console.error. So in this case, let's just test this, and then the test, our test framework is working, but we want to validate the test. So we want to expect that global this.console.log to have been called times 1. If I save that, okay, type error, expect console.log to have been called time. Oh, what am I doing wrong? Expect console.logs. Let me check with the other one. I think I'm just writing it wrong. Let me see what I did differently. That looks okay. Before each just function. What's it not liking? To have been called is times is not a function, really. Expect, oh, okay, whoops, it imported it up here, that's why. Okay, I think this is gonna, okay, it's passing right now. Okay, so that's good. Now the other thing we want to check is we don't want console.error to have been called. Okay, that's good too. And the other thing we want to do is we want to have it been called with, and I think we'll just go with check mark. I think that should be good. Yeah. So for example, if I did X, it's gonna fail. And you see, it expected X, but we received this. So let's do this. Now, actually, this is interesting because I'm not gonna copy it right now, but we could do it like they have it written out. Again, not necessarily the entire purpose of this, but okay, so that's good. Now, what we might want to do here is test it out in a few ways. So you could do this multiple times. We could, let's see here, we could do this, for example. There's a better way to do this potentially, but if we did this, for example, you could do false to be false. This one could be like, for example, and to be clear, toBe is like equality, like think triple equals. It's not coercion, and also if you have two different objects, you want to make sure that fails too. So this, we could do this. So for example, some of this looks silly, I know, but object equal to this, and then we could say object. This could be object. And what's gonna fail here is, well, let's just do this first. We should get all these things passing. Okay, why didn't it console log though? Yeah, go try it. Yeah, exactly. Here, well, we can do that just for fun. This should, whoops, this should fail from what, well, it's weird. Not a number as, yeah, expect one, yeah, there's, oh no, yeah, sorry, toBe is coerced. It's to equal, which is triple equals. So thanks for actually saying that, Nick, because that should be modified. This should just be equals, double equals. So coercion for the win. So this really should be like, for example, like Nick was saying, let's put 1. This should pass. I'll get rid of this. Yeah. And, you know, it should coerce equality. Let's try that. Yeah. So that's good. And what we could do here is, you could do an array to test things, but we would have to reset the jest function. I'm trying to remember how you reset. Hold on one sec. Jest.function reset calls. Let's zoom this in. I just can't remember how you reset it. It's not something I typically do, but okay, yeah, clear. Normally this happens in the before and after each. Like this is done implicitly if you do it in the before each. But in my case, we're gonna loop through a bunch. So let's do this. So we'll do global this console.log mock.clear, and I'll explain what I'm getting at in a second here. And there, and we're gonna do for each. So let's do .for each. And then we're gonna, it's gonna be a callback. And then in here, it's an array of items, but we're gonna structure actual and expected. And what we'll do here is we'll do, for example, actual 1. It's not even expected, but I'll fix that in a second. So let's do 1 actual expected. I really should have installed prettier, but oh well, all good. So we do this, and let's put this here. Okay, and then what we do here is we'll do actual expected. It's not exactly what I want to do, but this should pass still. And what's neat about this is clearing the mocks. So if we did, you know, this should be, maybe we'll call this equality object, or yeah, maybe equality object, equality value. Okay, that works. And then we can get rid of that, and we'll do this. Okay. Now, the reason why I'm doing the mocks clear there is because I want to add a few things into here. I want to also be able to do... I'm not really sure what my prettier plugin isn't showing up. I think it's because I don't have a prettier config in here. So if we did this, for example, true, true, both of these should pass still. If I put false here, I would expect the second one to fail. Yeah. Okay, so it's working with an array here, so we can pass in a bunch just to test things. Do this. And again, the toBe, thanks again, Nick, for showing the coerce. toBe is coercing equality, not actual equality. That's what toEqual is. So that was my bad for that. So, you know, the potential here, like for test data, is kind of limitless, but you try and think of a sensible data set. Yeah, so let me just hide this, Andrew. So the reason why it's not failing is we do have in the before each here, we are creating a jest function for the log and the error. And each time we loop, it would fail if I didn't clear the mocks here. So when you clear the mocks, what it does is it resets the number of times it's been called back to 0. And that's why I did that explicitly. Normally you don't have to do this in Jest if you have like a before each. For example, it knows to do the cleanup and stuff, so it's implicitly done for you. But in this case, I'm looping, kind of going through an array in the test, so I need to handle this explicitly. So that's the reason for doing that. Okay, just doing a time check. Well, it's 11:41. All right, you know what? Well, we're getting close there, but I'll wrap it up at noon because I do have something to attend to at noon. Okay. So coercing equality is good. The next thing we want to test is, let's do what I thought I was doing originally, which is it should handle equality. I don't know. Actual equality value, and we're going to change this to equal. Now, toEqual doesn't exist yet, so if I open up the test, it's going to fail because it doesn't know what toEqual is. That's probably what it's going to say somewhere down here. Oh, no, it's something else. What is it? It should... That's me doing a weird copy-paste, I think. Let's go back up here. All right, let's undo that. Should coerce equality. Whoops. Oh, okay, yeah. I didn't copy the whole test, that's why. So come down here, and you know what? Let's rename this. It should course equality when using toBe. All right. So let's remove this. Let's just commit this. Git Add, Git CI created the expect.toBe matcher. All right, let's push that up, and that's available. Yeah, okay. We're gonna do the last one here, and then I'm gonna call it. So let's come back here now, and let's add in, it's gonna be toEqual. Now I'm gonna leave the test data that we have here right now because I wanna ensure that it's gonna fail. And let's see what else here. We could also do the error. Actually, you know what? Yeah, let's do that first. So let's just undo this again. Hold on a sec. Let's do a git reset hard. Let's reset. I'm just pulling my changes I just did for the should course equality when using toBe. And I'm gonna also just test failure. So let's do this. So it should fail coercion equality when using toBe. So the way we're going to do that is we'll do, for example, well, there's a few things. We can say false, true. These aren't all coerced values, so maybe not good, but let's see, whatever. Okay, and we're going to expect here. So we're going to expect console.log to not have been called, and we're going to expect error to have been called, and error to have been called with a message. So now I'm not going to change the error here, the error message yet, because I want it to fail. So let's just do false true to start. Now the test is going to fail, which we're expected. So already I'm just going to copy paste this. So because I do know this is what it really should be doing. So if I come here, all right, passes. Okay, now let's try two other things that aren't equal. I'm curious, just for fun, let's try not a number. Okay, so it is passing, I believe, but the error message is too generic. So what we need to do here is we need to change this to this, and we'll do this actual to equal equality value. And once we're done this, I think we'll call it for today. Appreciate everybody who's been popping by the streams. It's a lot of fun, and I like hanging out with you folks. All right, so that's passing too. And also we validated that not a number is not a number, which was expected, but okay, cool. So I'm gonna add this, and I'm gonna do a git push for us. All right, like I said, thanks again everybody for coming out today. We are going to wrap it up, and I will see you next week. We'll be back on Tuesday. This week I was off for Rust, but I'm back on Rust on Tuesdays, and no dev stream next week. My daughter's graduating, and Thursday I'll be back with some more JavaScript, so pop by, say hi, appreciate it, take care.